wanted to come in and talk about some things. You know, everything that's going on, we're stuck indoors, and we're stuck in a spot that, you know, we're not really, you know, ready for. But I was talking to several people, and I think it's really good for us to, you know, get back to what we really need to do. And this is in regards to Jiu-Jitsu. So what are we doing to get better and stronger and faster? And like I've always said, you know, when we first started, we didn't have a place to train. There was no real Jiu-Jitsu before, you know, our school. So we always kind of trained, you know, wherever we could. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about was drilling and training things that are less than techniques. So I want you guys to think about this, is that like most students, they come in and they want to learn, you know, a submission. They want to learn an escape. They want to learn a technique that is finite. And most of the time, that's not necessarily what is really needed, okay? So we've talked about this, and during class, we teach, or I teach, with the idea that I'm trying to make you be able to move better, your mobility and agility. We've talked about that. So let me explain what I mean. When I first started, I didn't have an instructor to actually teach me techniques. Most of the things that were coming on were movements, you know, that I could get out of videos and DVDs that I was purchasing at the time. So I would get videos and DVDs, and sometimes I didn't have a partner. I didn't have Martha all the time. I didn't have Alex all the time. I didn't have Master Meme all the time. So I would be by myself. So I remember I used to do so many drills, just over and over and over and over again. And then when I needed them, the technique was there. So the movement is way more important than the technique. So we've talked about the lowest common denominator in Jiu-Jitsu, which is our bridge and our shrimp. Well, imagine doing shrimping, you know, for 20 minutes. And some of you guys get upset when I make you guys do shrimps for 5 or for 2 lines down the mat. And it's true. You guys are like, oh, we got to do shrimping again. We got to do knee drops again. We need to do this. And the thing about it is that those are the techniques that got me to where I needed to be. So I was a white belt competing at state tournaments with no instructor and winning. I was a white belt competing as a blue belt, you know, or in blue belt divisions at the time. Didn't want to get that confused. But you say, and still winning, because I had just so much repetition under my belt, you know, so many times. And sometimes if I would get a chance to get a partner, I didn't really drill, you know, an arm bar or an escape or an omoplata. Honestly, I just drilled one arm bar from guard, going back and forth, and counted to 100. Once I got 100, okay, I can switch to the next technique. And it goes like that. So sometimes just getting into moving, you know, that's a really big deal. I tell everybody, you don't always have mats. Like right now, we actually have extra mats from our school because we were running that tournament. So they didn't fit at the school, and we have them actually stored everywhere. We have some stored at the school. We have some stored underneath some of our beds. They're under our beds, and we're pulling them out. And we were able to put 2 mats together, and then, you know, we can do a couple techniques. But in reality, you don't need mats, you know. And it's like sometimes we would do so much of that training that I was just talking to you about, like all the solo drilling was not necessarily on a jiu-jitsu mat or mats made for jiu-jitsu or a school mat, you know. It was a carpet. We would get on a carpet, and that's the nicest thing we would do. Another story is we had a friend that he wasn't allowed to go out of his house to train, so we would go and train at his house, you know. And so we would take our huge bag of equipment, mitts and boxing gloves and things like that, and we would show up and we would do it. So the stand-up was fine. You know, we would kick and punch and hold mitts for each other and do everything we needed to do, and that was okay. But the moment we needed to do our grappling, it was on tile. And we were doing takedowns, we were doing grappling, like all matches, full matches on tile, you know, because that's all we had, or that's the only real sparring partner that I had. So wherever he had to go or wherever he could go, that's where I needed to be. It really depends on how bad do you want it. And that's the honesty of this. How bad do you really want to get better at jiu-jitsu? You know, are you willing to roll on tile? Are you willing to roll on grass? Are you willing to roll on the floor? Are you willing to put a carpet down on your tile and put a couple of towels and San Marcos and like any kind of blanket, like be honest, that's what I used to train at. That's what I used to roll on because we didn't have anything else. We had carpet in the living room. We would move the coffee table out of the way and we would practice and roll and do several things there. Several years later, we were really lucky that we got some puzzle mats, and these are not real thick puzzle mats. You know, they're probably like, you know, half an inch thick, and they're kind of lousy. But hey, they were the best thing ever. They were super cheap. Martha got them at Toys R Us for like really cheap. I think the cashier.
Yeah, it was like $20, but they were meant to be $100.
Something like that. How do you say? I think Martha was really cute. The cashier guy was, you know, crazy or something, and gave them at a really discounted price. But the whole point was, you know, that's what we used for years. So in my bedroom, I only had one bed, and I had that carpet space, and we put a couple of these together, and we would roll and train and do whatever we needed to do, and we were practicing on there. So a lot of it is what can you make, what can you get, and how can you put it together. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm real lucky I have these mats, but if not, you know, I would put the carpet down, I would put a couple blankets down, we'd do something, we'd find ourselves in this spot. Like I said before, guys, and this is like such a weird situation, but this is the honesty of it. You know, how bad do you want to get better? You know, how bad do you want to train and get to the next level? And hopefully it's very high and it's very strong, and the will to win and the will to get better, that all comes from you guys. It doesn't come from me. You know, I've put in so many hours, so many times, so many days, so many repetitions, guys, that it's uncanny. That's what I used to do to all my students when we started. You know, like I didn't have a lot of techniques, and I would tell them, like, you know what, we need to drill all these movements if you want to get better. You know, armbar drills, omoplata drills, scissor sweeps, whatever is the most basic movements, shrimping drills, whatever you can get, guys, and however much space you are. You know, you gotta make with what you have, and make do with what you have, and just be grateful for everything that we do have. You know, and I know this will be over soon, and we'll be back on the mats. But meanwhile, are you still training? Are you still trying hard? All right. You have anything to say? You got anything to add?
Just glad to see some people here joining